Hello. Welcome to the Indie Author Mentor Show. I'm your host, Valerie Ihsan, author business strategist. I help authors that are panicked and overwhelmed who want to be focused and finish their projects and take their author business to the next level. Today on the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing author Erick Mertz, who'll be joining us in a few minutes. And we are on episode 29 in season 2, and it is October 29th, 2019 as I record this. Welcome. In my personal update, I am getting ready for the 20 Books to 50K conference, and it's kind of going gangbusters. It's difficult to get everything done that I wanted to before the conference started, but I'm just going to do my best, and my best is going to be getting my website out. That's what I've really been working on. I had some technical snafus, and I got most of the website all designed, and then it broke. I have to redo it. So I have to start from scratch. As soon as I finish recording this, I'll probably jump into Squarespace and start working on that website again. I am also beta launching my new author strategy program. It's a 6-month individual coaching one-on-one program with a customized author action plan and also accountability and coaching for 6 months. So if you are interested in getting a beta invite to this, please email me, valerie@valerieihsanauthor.com. And I think maybe Erick has joined us. Are you here, Erick? I hear Erick. Hello, Erick. Can you hear me? Are you muted? Why don't you unmute yourself? All right, I'll unmute you. Or no. Let's see. You're not muted.
I'm not muted.
You're not muted. There you are. Hello.
Hi.
I was just doing the intro to the podcast, and I just wanted to say one more quick thing, and then I'll read your bio, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. In the I'm reading section, I'm in fiction reading Alice Hoffman's new book, and I just blanked on the title. The World We Knew. That was the title. And I'm also reading Prosperity for Writers in the nonfiction realm. Okay. Yay. Hello, Erick.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm going to read your bio.
Okay.
Erick Mertz is a freelance writer and editor from Portland, Oregon. He self-publishes The Strange Air, an Oregon-based series of supernatural mysteries. You can read all about his exploits at erickmertzauthor.com. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. What have you been doing today?
Writing.
I set aside writing time and I got sucked into emails instead. That's what happened to my writing hour today.
Oh, really? Yeah, I had the whole morning sectioned off and I kept to it, and that's the best feeling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions for you. One, I think maybe we've talked about this in a different conversation, but I was wondering about where the Strange Air stories came from.
You should have prepared me for this.
I'm sorry.
Well, my inspiration for the mystery element of this, I've always been a fan of Unsolved Mysteries, the old TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved how, you got this hour of TV and you got 5 or sometimes 6 little mysteries, and you got this great cliffhanger, and it was great performances from Robert Stack and some campy performances in the reenactments. It was the perfect, it was just, to me, what storytelling should be. It should always leave you with something. Mm-hmm. So that's where the mystery element came from. And then just the setting, I have a fictional Oregon County, Canyon County, that I just love small Oregon towns. I drive through them anytime I can. I stop. I just love everything about them. I love the people. And so I wanted to create a little environment to tell my version of unsolved mysteries.
That's awesome. Where in Oregon? I know you said it's fictional, but is there a region that it's, because I try to picture it, when I'm reading them myself.
Yeah, so my sister lives in Doofer. If you've never heard of Doofer.
Where's that at?
Doofer is just south of the Dalles. It's about 30 miles south of the Dalles. And so if you were to take what is realistically Wasco County and Sherman County, I love that they're a blend of, you've got mountains, you've got hills, prairies, forests, there's a river town. It's big enough that there's a couple of actual cities in there, but it's not so big that names get lost. That's what I like about a small town.
Mm-hmm.
You don't lose characters. You don't lose that intimacy, I guess.
So I know that in another part of your author business, you are a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
How many years have you been ghostwriting?
So for 12 years altogether. For the first 5 of that, it was something I did on the side while working a full-time job. And it got so big, it kind of grew as its own organic phenomenon.
Writing business?
Yeah, ghostwriting if you do it right, and that's not to say that I'm doing it right. I'm doing it, and this is happening. But it's just, you make a lot of contacts, and you get reliable. If you're reliable, people call you back for work. And so the last 6 years it's been my main source of income. It's funded the author business, which doesn't fund itself yet.
And then what made you take the leap from ghostwriting into writing your own fiction?
Well, really, it's the other way around. I was writing my own material for years. I had those million words that are buried in a drawer somewhere. But I found that I could make money as a writer if I was a ghostwriter. So I really stopped for a long time. I stopped writing my own work so that I could write for other people. And I really had to wrestle myself back into writing my own stories again, because making money as a writer can sometimes skew your perception of value. And I had to relearn the passion for my own projects, my own things. I had to look at the things that weren't making me immediate money as valuable as the things that were. And that all came through my son. My son, kind of, when you have a little kid in your life, you start to say, oh my gosh, they're only going to know about you what you tell them. And I didn't really know how to explain to him that I was a ghostwriter. It's more fun to say daddy makes up stories when he's at work. So.
And then my next question was about the author life in general. Like, what do you struggle with the most when maybe, is it balancing the ghostwriting and your own fiction, or what's the thing that you struggle with the most as an author?
I think the hardest thing for me is it's jumping out of there's the storytelling on the page, and then there's the storytelling to the market. You have to find a way to take your 80,000 words or 10,000 words or whatever you're writing and pitch it. And that pitch comes in the form of like a query letter, or it comes in the form of an ad. And so I really struggle with how to balance my time between those two storytelling skills. And one of them I frankly need to get, both of them I need to improve in. We always need to get better as writers and storytellers, but coming up with a way to do an Instagram graphic to put with a blog to get people to click is just, it's a new thing for me.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with how much time and energy and how much emotion I put into that, because
It's the marketing side or the copywriting side?
yeah, like I'm on a different learning curve with that. So when I put something up and it doesn't get clicks, how seriously do I take that? I sometimes go back and just start writing fiction again, because that's a little more, it's like a safety blanket. Then, so yeah, like finding the balance. I think the thing that authors, I'm hearing more and more about is that authors, most of us are really good at writing. It's just how to sell ourselves as writers that it's different.
It's different.
It's very different.
Well, this is the season where I'm talking about mindset a lot on the podcast. So I was wondering if you had any, I don't know, mindset tips, life hacks. What do you do for yourself to be stronger mindset wise when it comes to writing life?
Well, I think the first thing, if anyone's listening and they don't have, like, my in some sense my problem is unique in that, like, I have to balance one type of writing with another. I have a client book, and then I have my book. And to completely demystify that, I mean, we all have a day job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all have a passion project. And I think the life hack for me is and I don't want any of my ghostwriting clients to hear this, but I think anyone would understand that I give myself the best hours of the day. And those for me are the morning, when it's time to write. When it's time to write an original thing, that is, I commit my best energy and time to that. Sometimes it's the afternoon when I'm done with work and I have an hour to kill. I'll bring my notebook and free write. I know where the sweet spots are, and I am just learned to be selfish about those sweet spots. And the other thing is I really take that Stephen King advice about really writing that first draft with your door closed and just doing it for the right reason here, and then worrying about it later, is so important.
I was going to ask another question. Chris Syme on her marketing podcast used to talk about the biggest tip to rule them all. So I was going to try to take that one step further. It sounds kind of like you already answered this, but I was going to ask if you had like one fantastic piece of advice for that new writer that's either in the middle of their first book or right at the beginning of their author career, because you've been doing this, as you said, for many, many years.
Yeah. I think it's to be selfish. I mean, and people, that's such a, I think, don't talk about religion, don't talk about money, don't be selfish. Those are the things that we're taught, and those are, maybe we need to like come up with a better context for that than just to be that blanket about it. But you have to be selfish and about that time. And then I also think that to sort of dovetail off on that is, I think especially young authors get self-conscious about diving in too deep, doing the thing they're passionate about. I'm going to talk about this in the class in Eugene, but like, when you have something that's cool, you can't play coy with it. Like, if you have a cool monster, you have a cool idea, you have a cool technology in your sci-fi book, don't be shy. Give it as much. And you taught me some of this in your editorial comments. Like, why are you holding this back? Why are you holding this back? Because I had to unlearn that discretion that we all want to be. I think we get this, like, we get this like habit of trying to be too clever and do things too fine, but just indulge in it, and then come at it from a place of giving it everything, and then figure out maybe in the second draft how to reel it back a little bit, to be subtle. But I think so many people are careful and they're not indulgent and they're not doing it for that joy that like you can't worry about that right away.
So are you talking about the writing of that rough draft, being indulgent in that period?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll meet a lot of people who will say, they're struggling in their first draft, and then you'll talk about like, well, why? You'll get to the question of why, and the answer will be, well, I'm not quite sure how to do, and then what they'll describe is something really fine. And I think like just bowl past some of that stuff. Like, if you don't know how the man gets fired from his job, but you know what he does later in the story, then just get past that. You'll come up with something else later, and it might just be a simple matter of mechanics. And I think just go, just be like indulgent with the story and just and run with it.
I think that's great advice. When I was in I think it was my first novel writing class that I was taking, as I hadn't written anything, and I asked the teacher if I could write individual scenes. Like, did I have to go from beginning to end in the story? Or could I be like, oh, I want to write this scene, and oh, I want to write this scene. And he said, well, you could, but that kind of cherry picking is dangerous and you'll never get the whole book written. And so from the very beginning, I was taught not to do that. And I had to unlearn it and realize, oh, you can just write the scene that you're excited about, because that's what's going to get the words out today.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose that excitement because, again, you're worried about something small in the middle.
Yeah.
And you're going to rewrite it anyway. There's just a fact of life. You're going to rewrite it 6 times, and then you'll regret wasting a month trying to figure out that detail. Or maybe, I don't know. That might not be for everybody, but that definitely is for me, the tip to rule them all.
What about your Strange Air series? How many books are you planning? A certain number of books in there, or are you? I know that you've got some like prequels and novellas. Yeah. Tell us more about the whole series.
Right now, I've used this year. So right now I'm gonna have to do some counting, which is a great visual for your audience. 1, 2, 3. I have a book that I'm late getting to my editor. That would be the first novel. But back of that, I just did the schedule for this. There are books that are written already. There, in at least first draft or second draft, there are 4 additional novels. So there's 5 that I can roll out pretty quick. But what I've done this year is I wanted to learn. I made the pact, whether this was foolish or not, and we can have this conversation at a later date. But I made the pact that I was going to spend a year just publishing with Amazon with books that I didn't feel like I needed to make any kind of money on. And I figured with a novel, I would feel a little bit more of a burden to sell copies, right? But I didn't want to. So I wanted to tinker with Amazon, but without that burden. So I started leaking out short, just little collections of vignettes and stories and things that fit into the world. Mm-hmm. I call them witness accounts, just people who've experienced things around Canyon County's strange occurrences. And they're all interlocked. That the characters, you'll find one character in one short story is a character in a novel, and then that person's, then later on has a bridge named after them. So you can connect people in that world. But I was writing these witness accounts for years when I had free writing time. And when I started working on the series, I realized, oh my gosh, I've got, 50 short stories that fit into the world. I'm not going to inflate them to novels, but these would be a great way to try to just see what how to market things. And I'm glad I did that at this point. I'm saying this now 10 months into the year that I did this way. If I would have put that novel out last year, and I've had the trouble, not trouble, but the challenges that I've had in this, I might be a little more salty about Amazon. But since I've done this without any real consequence, I don't know, the experiments have been fun. But yeah, that's a diversion from your actual question. 5 novels, multiple short reads. I'm looking at the list. Multiple short reads. I'll probably be putting out a book every 4 months next year with
Cool.
a novella and a short read collection connected to each one as sort of, teaser and fodder. So
Would you be selling those, or would those be just little bonuses that you give your mailing list, for instance?
yeah, I found that was one of the cool things about this. I learned this year that whole, you hear about these things in book marketing, right? That like, oh, you give things away and you reach your audience, and it's abstract until you do it. But I've really enjoyed the writing that I've known. Like, I'm not going to try to sell this. I'm just giving this away. So I will find in that little math, that little plan, something new to give away all the time. Because you really can't have a perma-free book. At least I'd love to talk to somebody who does, because once you start marketing that perma-free book, your audience is, your audience in your genre is going to like have recognized that book, and you need to offer them something new. It just doesn't seem like anything permanently free will have staying power as an audience builder. It's another topic, I'm sure.
I don't know if I agree with that, but that's cool that
Well, I've just noticed I've posted one thing I've gone through BookFunnel, and I've used one book and I've marketed it the same way, as a freebie. But I've noticed that the first month it got 200 downloads, and it was 175, and then 150, and then I started upping the number of times promotions I'd give it away, but the numbers still kept dwindling. And at the same time, I noticed there were people who were downloading who I was getting opting into my mailing list multiple times because they were downloading multiple free things. So I think, I don't know. Stay tuned.
still
That's
playing. Yeah, still playing
another
with
topic. I don't know.
marketing strategy changes constantly too, and the industry
Yeah,
standards change constantly. So
I think that is a part-time job. It's funny, as a sideline, one of the women that I ghostwrite with, she has decided to start her own author business, and she's starting with a short story, and for the last 2 weeks we've had an ongoing conversation about, well, what do I do? How do I need to get 100 reviews on Amazon. Like, I can't do a pre-order because I'm going to miss out on sales. And it's just funny because there are so many questions, and you can't really give them answers. You're like, I don't know. It might work for you to do this. It didn't work for me, or anyway, makes it fun though.
yeah. You brought up earlier in our conversation the talk that you're going to give in Eugene.
Yeah.
Do you want to pitch that? Do you want to talk about that? What's that going to be about?
Well, it's a class that I have developed called Monsters Are Needy.
Which is a fantastic title.
Thank you. Actually, I came up with the title, and then I thought, this is great. I've got to come up with a class that fits this now. Just kidding. Well, as a ghostwriter, and a lot of what ghostwriting comes down to is a majority of my clients are people who have written something. They're 30,000 words in. They're 60 pages of a screenplay in. They're not to the finish line, and they want me to finish it for them. Or they want, I'm sure you get this as an editor too. People say, what does this need? And more of the cool thing is what I find a lot of times. You read horror scripts where the monster doesn't show up for 60 pages, so it's really just a bland drama until the monster appears. Or it's a thriller where you're not really sure what the hero's running from, or they're faceless. And so I've just discovered that your monster is as needy as your hero. The bad guy is as needy as the good guy, to use the most basic terms. So I've gone through and broken down a handful of books and a handful of movies, illustrating the variety of approaches that writers can use to show their threat, and the frequency with which successful books and films will illustrate their threat. So I'll take a movie like what's a movie on there? Sleeping with the Enemy, which is like one of the, it's a great thriller. It's memorable, and if you ask anybody what they remember about it, it's the dude's a creep. He's like the best cinematic villain ever, and if you break it down, he's on screen as much as Julia Roberts is, if not more, at certain parts of the film, and that's why he's so memorable, and that's why it's such a powerful film, because the threat is visceral and real, and you couldn't do that if you gave him half the screen time. So I broken down a number of things in that way, just to illustrate, look, this happens. There's no magic formula, but there is a frequency that you need to find in your script, and presence matters in a story. And if you're not presenting the thing that's supposed to affect your reader or your audience, then it's not going to work.
Do you think that the villain needs to be physically present in scenes, or can it just be a nod to that villain? Or in novels,
now you're asking me to give away everything, Val. I can't do that.
I'm sorry.
No,
this is the
so
question
that's
I'll
one
ask
of the
you
points
during
I
the talk.
do get. Pardon?
I'll ask you the same question during the talk.
Well, in one of the books that I break down is a classic, and in that, I won't say what it is, but it's a classic monster book, and there are only 4 out of the 70 pages in the book in which the monster is actually out and doing its thing. Mm-hmm. But the entire effect of the horror effect of that book is suggestion, illusion. You see the effect, and that actually works in a lot of things. It works in subtle things, and it also works in things that are a little more slapstick and overt. So, yeah, it's not all FaceTime.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. All right, I think that pretty much wraps up the questions that I had. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want to plug, or tell us where to find you online?
Well, you mentioned my author site. I also maintain erickmertzwriting.com, which is the ghostwriting side of my life. What else am I working on? I don't know if there's much room.
It's erickmertz.com for your author.
erickmertzauthor.com are my books.
Okay.
And then Erick Mertz Writing is,
the ghostwriting. If someone needs a ghostwriter, you can go to erickmertzwriting.com.
There you go.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know what else there. I don't know if I have time to work on anything else. If I find time, though, I'm sure I've got a young adult fantasy in here somewhere that I could work on.
What's the next book that's going to come out for you?
There is The Mask of Tomorrow. I'm hoping to have out in January. That's the book that my editor has been late on, and she'll forgive me, I'm sure. After that, I have a longer print version of. I'm going to do a longer version of some of the short reads and novellas that I've done. I'm going to combine them and then do a print version of those. And then I have a book for April that is a sort of Western themed. It takes place in the 1870s and 1880s.
Is this still part of the Strange Air series?
Part of the Strange Air series. I've created the paranormal element has been around longer than man has been around.
Ooh, that's so exciting.
Yeah,
that's
so there's that's called The Incident at Tallow Creek.
The Incident at Tallow Creek. That's a fantastic way to be able to have a series and not be tied down to a certain genre or timeline, that's fantastic. That's a really cool idea. I like it.
Well, thank you. I thought that was the best way that kind of came by accident, to be honest. And then as I sort of realized that I'd left a hole in my thinking, I thought, well, why don't I just make this, let's fill the hole so that the story could take place at any time. And so sometimes there's happy accidents when you're world building, and and you can use those happy accidents to elongate your series if you're really wise about it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for talking with me, Eric. This was great.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I will talk to you later. I'll see you
Soon.
in the
Bye-bye.
meeting.
Pardon?
I'll see you in the talk, in the
Oh,
meeting.
oh yeah, next week.
Yes. For
Take
anyone
care.
listening, that's going to be November 7th at Tsunami Books in Eugene, Oregon. And the meeting starts at 7 o'clock. See you
See you
then.
there.
Bye.
Take care.
You too.